In the world of the wealthy and powerful, things aren't always what they seem. A life of luxury, success, and a seemingly perfect family, but sometimes, everything is just a facade. In the shadows, dark secrets and dangerous plots are waiting to be revealed. James Harrison, a successful businessman, once thought he had control over every aspect of his life. But when his family, his wife and daughter, began to change, he discovered that everything he knew about them might be a carefully crafted lie. At the same time, a ghost from his family's past, a figure he had never heard of, was silently pulling the strings, leading his life toward disaster. Can James uncover the secrets within his own family and stop a larger conspiracy that threatens everything he's worked for? Or will the closest people to him be the ones who betray him and cost him everything? Stay tuned for a story full of twists, strained relationships, and an unforgiving battle in The Secret Behind the Glittering Lights. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the next parts of this story. Leave your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what you think about the characters and the twists in the plot. Let's unravel this mystery together. In the heart of Chicago, James Harrison lived a life many envied. A successful entrepreneur, he had built his wealth from the ground up, and his lavish lifestyle reflected the fruits of his hard work. His penthouse apartment overlooked the city skyline, a place where every comfort was within reach. His wife, Sophia, a woman of beauty and grace, stood by his side for years. Together, they had a daughter, Olivia, a brilliant student with a bright future ahead. But nothing was as perfect as it seemed. Lately, James had noticed small but concerning changes in Sophia's behavior. She was spending more time at the gym, particularly with her personal trainer, Ethan. Her newfound interest in fitness wasn't the only thing that seemed off. There was a shift in the way she spent money, extravagant purchases, dinners at expensive restaurants, and an increasing number of trips without any explanation. James dismissed his growing suspicions as stress from work. But as the days passed, something didn't sit right. Sophia seemed more distant, more focused on her image than on their life together. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, he couldn't ignore it anymore. He had to ask. "Sophia," he began cautiously, "is everything okay between us? You've been acting different lately." Sophia looked at him, her eyes narrowing. "Everything's fine, James. You're just too busy with work. You never pay attention to me anymore." She quickly changed the subject, but James could feel the tension growing between them. James couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next few days, he began to dig deeper. He accessed their bank statements, reviewing the past few months' transactions. What he found shocked him: large sums of money were being transferred to Ethan's account, money that didn't seem to correspond with any personal training fees. He also found cryptic emails between Sophia and Ethan, filled with strange messages and hints of secret meetings. The final straw came when he found a text message on Sophia's phone, an invitation to meet Ethan at a luxury hotel. James's heart sank as the pieces began to fall into place. He confronted Sophia the next day. "Sophia, what's going on?" James's voice trembled with anger and hurt. "You've been spending money like we're living in a fantasy. You're meeting Ethan at hotels. What's happening?" Sophia's face went pale, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide her guilt. I can't do this anymore, James. I've fallen in love with Ethan. We've been planning this for months. We want to take control of your business. You've been too distracted to see it." James stared at her in disbelief. "What? You've been conspiring with him, to steal everything I've worked for?" Sophia lowered her gaze, unable to meet his eyes. "It was never about you, James. It was about the life I wanted, the life we could have with his help." James's world shattered in that moment. His wife, the woman he had trusted for years, had been plotting against him, not just with another man, but with his personal trainer, a man who had been a trusted part of their lives. Devastated but determined, James decided to take action. He hired a private investigator, who quickly uncovered more damning evidence, fake documents and financial fraud attempts, all orchestrated by Sophia and Ethan. It became clear that they had been planning to forge his signature on crucial business deals, effectively taking control of his empire. James also discovered that Olivia, his own daughter, had been aiding Sophia. She had gathered information from James's company, feeding it back to her mother. The betrayal cut deeper than he ever imagined. Knowing he couldn't let this go unchallenged, James made his next move. He contacted his lawyer and began preparing for a legal battle. But he didn't stop there. Using the information the investigator had uncovered, James orchestrated a confrontation. He knew that Sophia and Ethan were about to meet again to finalize their scheme. The trap was set. It all came to a head at a 5-star hotel in the city. James, along with the private investigator and a team of police officers, waited in the shadows. Sophia and Ethan arrived as planned. The plan was simple: catch them red-handed. The moment they were alone, police barged in and arrested both of them for embezzlement and fraud. Ethan was revealed to be a con artist who had been running similar scams on other wealthy families for years, and his network was quickly dismantled. Sophia, stunned and humiliated, was taken into custody. James stood there, watching as the woman who had betrayed him was led away in handcuffs. But the shock wasn't over. Olivia, who had tried to intervene, was also implicated in the scandal. Her involvement in her mother's crimes cost her everything. She was expelled from the prestigious university she attended, and her friends turned their backs on her. The fallout was immediate and severe. Sophia lost everything: her wealth, her reputation, and her freedom. James filed for divorce, and the once glamorous life he had shared with his family was now in ruins. Olivia, now a social outcast, faced the harsh consequences of her choices. She was left with nothing but regret. Ethan was imprisoned for his role in the elaborate fraud, and many families who had been victims of his schemes came forward to file lawsuits against him. Despite everything, James began to rebuild his life. The divorce was finalized, and with the legal battles behind him, he refocused on his business. The sting of betrayal still lingered, but he was determined to move forward. He sought therapy to help him process the emotional damage and to learn how to trust again. As for Olivia, she disappeared from the public eye, her future uncertain. James couldn't help but wonder if there was a chance for reconciliation or if the damage was too great. Just when James thought he was free of the web of deceit, an anonymous message arrived. It was a cryptic warning: "You haven't seen the last of us." Was this a new threat from Sophia? Or was someone else pulling the strings? The message was chilling. James stared at the screen, unsure of what to believe. One thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. The story was far from over. James Harrison had thought he could finally breathe easy. The arrest of Sophia and Ethan, the fallout from the scandal, the shattered family, he believed all of it was behind him. But the message he had received, an anonymous warning, lingered in his mind, gnawing at his thoughts. The cryptic words felt like a heavy weight that he couldn't shake off. A few days passed, and James tried to focus on rebuilding his empire. His business had taken a hit during the turmoil, but he was determined to recover. He poured himself into work, attending meetings, signing contracts, and trying to keep things running smoothly. But no matter how hard he tried, the feeling of being watched never left him. Late one evening, as he was going over some financial documents in his office, his phone buzzed. The message came through again. It was brief, but chilling: "We're not finished yet. The game has only just begun." James's heart raced. Was this Sophia? Or was it someone else, someone who had been pulling the strings all along? James couldn't afford to ignore this any longer. He called his lawyer, Hannah Bennett, and explained the situation. Hannah, a sharp and no-nonsense attorney, had been his legal counsel during the divorce proceedings, and she knew the gravity of the situation. "We need to take this seriously, James. Whoever this is, they've got a personal vendetta. It could be someone who has a deeper connection to your family than you realize, Hannah said, her voice laced with concern. James felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had no idea who this could be. The people who had wronged him were either behind bars or out of his life for good. But then, something struck him: Olivia. His daughter had been a part of Sophia's scheme, and although she had been swept into the scandal, she had disappeared from the public eye. Could she be behind this? Could she be trying to regain control of what she had lost? Determined to find answers, James began to investigate further. He hired a private investigator, Victor Wells, who had a reputation for digging up the darkest secrets. Together, they began tracking Olivia's movements, but what they uncovered sent James's world spiraling. Olivia had been in contact with a mysterious figure, someone who had been helping her hide from the consequences of her actions. There were phone calls, encrypted messages, and a hidden bank account with significant sums of money deposited into it. James's worst fear began to take shape. Olivia wasn't just hiding, she was planning something. Victor's investigation revealed more troubling details. Olivia had been in contact with Aidan Marks, a shadowy figure with ties to the criminal world. Aidan had been linked to multiple fraudulent operations, some of which James's company had unknowingly been involved in. It seemed that Olivia, in her desperation to reclaim her lost life, had aligned herself with dangerous people, people who had a much grander scheme in mind. James was stunned. His daughter, whom he had always tried to protect, was now tangled up with criminals. This wasn't just about a few bad decisions, it was much bigger than that. A plan began to form in James's mind. He needed to confront Olivia, to get to the bottom of everything before it was too late. But he couldn't do it alone. He called Hannah for help, and together they devised a strategy to bring Olivia to the table. They would need her cooperation, or else they risked losing everything once more. James and Hannah tracked Olivia to a remote cabin in the woods, a place she had been using to hide out. With Victor's help, they located the cabin and prepared for a confrontation. James knew this wouldn't be easy. Olivia was angry, hurt, and likely scared. But he had no choice. This was the only way to stop whatever dangerous game she and Aidan were playing. As they arrived at the cabin, James's heart pounded in his chest. He could hear Olivia's voice inside, speaking to someone in low tones. The door creaked open, and Olivia stepped out, her eyes wide with surprise. "Dad?" Olivia's voice cracked, the shock of seeing him evident on her face. "What are you doing here?" James took a deep breath, his emotions welling up inside him. "Olivia, I know what you've been doing. I know you've been in contact with Aidan Marks. This needs to stop." Olivia's face turned pale, but she didn't back down. "You don't understand, Dad. I've lost everything, my future, my friends, my reputation. I'm doing whatever I can to get it all back. Aidan is my only way out." James's anger flared, but he kept his voice steady. "You're playing a dangerous game, Olivia. A game that could ruin not only your life but mine as well. You need to stop before it's too late." Olivia hesitated, then stepped closer to him, her eyes filled with pain. "I was trying to fix things, Dad. I didn't know who else to turn to." Just then, Aidan emerged from the shadows, his presence looming like a dark cloud. "I see you found her," Aidan said with a smirk. "It's too late, Harrison. Your daughter is mine now, and you're just a pawn in a much bigger game." James's blood ran cold. This was worse than he had thought. Aidan wasn't just after Olivia, he was after something much bigger. James felt the weight of the situation pressing on him, and the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The stakes were much higher than he had ever imagined. With Aidan making his move, James knew time was running out. He had one option left: he had to outsmart Aidan and his criminal network before they could destroy everything he had worked for. James, with the help of Hannah and Victor, prepared a counter-strategy to expose Aidan's illegal activities. They gathered evidence of Aiden's past crimes, his connections to fraudulent schemes, and his manipulation of Olivia. But Aiden had resources too, people who were willing to do whatever it took to protect him. As the tension escalated, James found himself in a race against time. Could he stop Aiden before he could execute his plans? Could he save his daughter from a path of destruction? Or would the web of deceit that had entangled his life finally swallow him whole? In a final, high-stakes move, James decided to confront Aiden directly, luring him into a trap with the help of the authorities. He knew this was his last chance to take down Aiden and save Olivia from the dangerous path she was on. The final confrontation would take place in a secluded warehouse, where Aiden planned to finalize a deal that could give him control of multiple businesses, including James's. But little did Aiden know, James had already tipped off the authorities, and they were waiting in the wings for the perfect moment to strike. James could feel the weight of the moment. He had worked tirelessly to put together the pieces of Aiden's criminal web, and now the time had come. The warehouse where Aiden planned to meet his associates was a sprawling, empty building on the outskirts of the city, an ideal location for shady deals. James knew this would be his last chance to confront Aiden and save Olivia from a future spiraling out of control. With the authorities stationed just outside the warehouse, James, Hannah, and Victor made their way inside, moving swiftly and quietly. They had already informed the police about the impending deal, and they were ready to arrest Aiden and his crew the moment things went south. But James wasn't just here for the arrest, he was here to take back control of his life. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, James spotted Aiden talking to a few shadowy figures, exchanging papers and nodding in agreement. He could feel the tension in the air, the final moment was drawing near. His heart pounded as he stepped forward, determined to put an end to Aiden's schemes once and for all. "Mr. Harrison," Aiden's voice rang out, dripping with sarcasm. "I was wondering when you'd show up. Did you really think you could stop me?" James's eyes narrowed as he stepped into the light. "This ends tonight, Aiden. You're not going to get away with this. Whatever you think you're doing, it's over." Aiden smiled darkly. "You think you have control of this situation, but you're mistaken. You're just another pawn in a game you'll never understand." Before James could respond, the sound of sirens rang through the air, signaling that the police were closing in. Aiden's smirk faltered, but he quickly regained his composure. He turned to his men, who were now backing away from the deal. "Go. Move," Aiden shouted. But before his associates could act, the authorities swarmed in, arresting everyone on the scene, including Aiden. But as James looked around, his heart sank. Olivia wasn't there. James felt a knot tighten in his chest. Olivia had to be somewhere nearby. She had to be involved in Aiden's operations. He couldn't lose her again, not after everything. He turned to Hannah, his voice urgent. "Where's Olivia?" Hannah's eyes widened. "I don't know. She could be with him or hiding somewhere in the building." Victor, ever the professional, began searching the area methodically. Minutes felt like hours, and James's thoughts raced. What if Olivia had already made her escape with Aiden's crew? What if she had gone too far to turn back? Finally, as they moved deeper into the warehouse, Victor found a hidden door at the back of the building. It led to a small office, and when they stepped inside, they found Olivia sitting at a desk, nervously flipping through papers. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw James. "Dad?" Olivia whispered, her voice a mixture of fear and guilt. "I didn't know what else to do. I thought I could fix everything I lost. I didn't mean for it to get this far." James took a deep breath, trying to steady his emotions. He couldn't let the anger take over, not when his daughter was so clearly lost and afraid. "Olivia, you've been involved in something dangerous. Aiden was using you. You're in over your head. But it's not too late to make this right." Olivia stood up, her hands shaking. "I thought I could trust him. I thought I could get back everything I lost, but now it's all falling apart. I didn't mean for this to happen. I don't know how to fix it, Dad. James's heart ached. He could see how deeply Olivia was struggling. She was lost, but she wasn't beyond saving. But saving her would require more than just words. It would require action, and courage from both of them. I know you're scared, James said softly. But you're not alone in this. We'll get through it together. You can still turn things around. With Olivia in tow, James and the team returned to the city, leaving the warehouse and its criminals in the hands of the police. Aiden's capture was a victory, but it didn't feel like one. James knew that the hardest part was still ahead, repairing the bond with his daughter, gaining her trust back, and helping her find a way to recover from the choices she had made. The media frenzy following Aiden's arrest was intense. The public was eager for details, and James had to deal with the fallout of his family's involvement in such a scandal. Olivia was the target of public criticism, and the once promising future she had at university was now a distant dream. James knew that repairing her reputation would take time and effort. But for now, the first step was to help Olivia heal. They spent time together, having long, difficult conversations. Slowly but surely, James began to see his daughter emerge from the cloud of fear and shame she had been hiding under. He wasn't sure what the future held for her, but he knew one thing: he wasn't giving up on her. Weeks passed, and Olivia began the long process of rebuilding her life. James was there every step of the way, supporting her as best he could. She entered therapy to help her deal with the guilt and trauma of what had happened. She also began working on repairing the relationships she had lost, starting with her old friends, many of whom had turned their backs on her. But James knew that while Olivia was working hard to move forward, their family would never be the same again. Trust had been broken, and the scars would take years to heal. But there was hope. One day, as James walked through his office building, he received another anonymous message. It was short, but it made his heart skip a beat. This isn't over. The game is just beginning. Watch your back. James froze, a cold chill running down his spine. It was the same message he had received before: whoever was behind this, they weren't finished. And with Aiden behind bars, it was clear that someone else was pulling the strings. James looked out the window, his thoughts racing. He thought he had put an end to the web of deceit that had entangled his life, but it was clear now: there was much more at play than he could have ever imagined. The game wasn't over. And this time, it was personal. James stood still for a moment, staring at the ominous message. The cold shiver that ran down his spine reminded him that despite all his efforts, he had failed to see the bigger picture. Aiden was only one part of the puzzle, but the pieces were still scattered, and someone else was behind the shadows. His phone buzzed again, and it was Hannah. He quickly answered, trying to steady his nerves. "James, I've been going through Aiden's records. There's something you need to know. Before he was arrested, he was in contact with someone named L. It seems like a shadow figure, but they had an extensive network." "This isn't over yet," Hannah's voice crackled through the line, her concern palpable. "L." James echoed, his mind racing. "Who is this person, and what do they want with me?" Hannah continued, "I don't know yet. But I'll find out. We need to stay ahead of this, James. Whoever L is, they're more dangerous than we thought." James rubbed his temples. It seemed like he couldn't escape the web of deceit, no matter how hard he tried. There were still pieces of the puzzle missing, and he had to figure out who was pulling the strings before it was too late. James couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Everywhere he went, it seemed like someone was lurking in the background, waiting for the right moment to strike. His trust in people was at an all-time low, and even with the police closing in on the criminal network, he knew that he couldn't rely on anyone but himself. Hannah had been digging into Aiden's past, but she had also discovered something unsettling about James's own family, an old connection to a man named Victor Langdon. Langdon had once been a partner in James's family business, a person whom James's father had trusted deeply. But James had never heard the name until now. James sat down with Hannah at a local cafe. She showed him an old photograph of Langdon, standing next to his father. "I think you need to see this," she said, pointing at the face of a younger man beside his father. "What is this? Why is this coming up now?" James asked, his brow furrowing. "Langdon disappeared years ago, shortly after your father's death. Some people believe he was involved in shady dealings, and that your father was the one who stopped him from going further. But nobody knows for sure," Hannah replied. James's heart raced. Could Langdon be the one behind the mysterious figure, Belle? Was this the key to unlocking the truth? "I have to find out more about him," James said with determination, feeling a sense of urgency he hadn't felt before. "If this man is behind everything, I'll find him, and I'll bring him down." James's search for Victor Langdon led him to a small, quiet town far from the city, an area that seemed to be forgotten by time. It was here that he discovered Langdon had been hiding under a different name. As James delved deeper, he learned that Langdon had been secretly building an underground network, quietly growing his influence while maintaining the illusion of being a ghost. James and Hannah drove to the location of Langdon's last known address. As they arrived, they found an old mansion, its grandeur faded by years of neglect. There was a sense of dread hanging in the air as they approached the front door. They knocked, and an elderly man answered. His graying hair and tired eyes gave away his age, but there was something in his gaze that spoke of a long history. "You must be James Harrison," the man said, his voice low and gruff. "You're looking for Victor Langdon, aren't you?" James nodded. "You know where he is?" The man hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Langdon's dead, boy. He's been dead for years. But his work, his legacy, it's not gone. It never was." It turned out that Victor Langdon had faked his death in an effort to escape justice. The old man, who had been one of Langdon's old associates, explained that Langdon had hidden all of his assets, leaving behind a cryptic set of instructions to anyone who might come looking for him. James felt a chill run down his spine. Langdon wasn't just trying to steal money or gain power, he had been building something much more dangerous. The network that Aiden was a part of wasn't the end of the story, it was only the beginning. Langdon had planned for something much bigger, and now James had to stop it. "I need your help," James told the old man. "I need to find the rest of Langdon's hidden plans before it's too late." The man nodded grimly. "I've kept the records, but I won't hand them over without one condition. You promise me that you'll stop this madness before it consumes you." James looked him in the eye. "I swear, I'll end this, whatever it takes." Armed with the information, James returned to the city and started tracing Langdon's movements. He discovered that the plan wasn't just financial, it was designed to destroy everything James had built, taking control of his company and his legacy. Langdon had meticulously planned to undermine James's empire, one step at a time. As James closed in on Langdon's final location, he received a shocking phone call. It was Olivia. "Dad. I need to tell you something," Olivia's voice trembled on the other end. "I didn't want to be a part of this, but Aiden, he wasn't just using me. He was using everyone. He has something on you, Dad. Something you never saw coming." James felt his heart sink. "What is it, Olivia?" "Langdon, he was never just after money. He wanted to destroy your reputation. He planted evidence, created lies, and now it's all coming to a head. He's been working from the inside, manipulating everything, your business, your family, even me. I never knew what I was part of until it was too late." James's hands clenched the phone, his thoughts racing. "Where is Langdon now?" Olivia hesitated. "He's at the old mansion. The one you've been looking for. But... Dad, be careful. He's not alone." James knew he had no time to waste. Langdon had been planning this all along, and now he had to stop it before the final blow was dealt. He called Hannah, Victor, and a team of trusted associates to meet him at the mansion. The final confrontation was about to begin. When they arrived at the mansion, they found Langdon waiting for them. His face was cold, calculating, and full of contempt. "You think you've won, James? You've only scratched the surface. This world is built on lies, and I've simply taken what was rightfully mine." But before Langdon could react, the police, led by Hannah, stormed in. Langdon tried to flee, but it was too late. He was arrested, his entire network dismantled in a matter of hours. James stood there, watching as Langdon was led away in cuffs. A wave of relief washed over him, but it was bittersweet. The fight had been long and hard, and in the end, the damage had been done. Months passed, and things slowly started to settle down. James's company began to rebuild, but the personal toll was undeniable. Olivia had started attending therapy and was working toward a healthier relationship with her family. They were rebuilding their bond, one fragile step at a time. James knew the scars would remain, but there was hope. His family was still together, and his business was starting to regain its footing. But as he sat in his office one evening, looking out at the city skyline, James knew one thing for certain: the past might never be fully erased, but the future was in his hands. And as long as he had control, he would make sure that the story of betrayal, deceit, and revenge would end with him. And just like that, the pieces of the puzzle have finally come together. James has faced betrayal, uncovering secrets that shook his world to the core. But even as one chapter closes, the question remains: is this truly the end, or just the beginning of something much darker? Was James able to outsmart the ones who betrayed him? Or will the consequences of his discoveries haunt him forever? The truth is out there, but are we ready to face it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more thrilling episodes. We want to hear what you think about this story. Who do you think was behind it all? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. The journey is far from over. Until next time.